Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a topic that probably resonates with many of you, how individuals with ADHD can really thrive, actually excel in the workplace.
Yeah, and we've pulled together some really great resources for this. We've got a guide from the Scottish ADHD Coalition, insights from CAGD, a Healthline piece on tools.
Right, also stuff from Towson University on student support, strategies from Well Night, and even a Reddit thread talking about task organization. So quite a mix.
Absolutely. Our mission today is really to get beyond the common perceptions and pull out practical, maybe even surprising insights, things that can help you understand how to navigate or support ADHD at work.
And something that jumped out at me straight away from that Scottish ADHD Coalition guide is that they highlight these often overlooked strengths people with ADHD have, like intense hyperfocus, being willing to take risks, creativity, loads of energy.
That's a great starting point. It challenges the narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we should start by defining what we're actually talking about.
Good idea.
So the Scottish ADHD Coalition Guide defines it clearly. It's a neurodevelopmental condition,
Okay, neurodevelopmental.
meaning it affects brain structure, how information gets processed. It's not, just about being disorganized. It's deeper than that.
Right. And those core symptoms, they really show up at work, don't they? The guide mentions inattention, which isn't just zoning out, right?
Exactly. It's difficulty concentrating, memory issues short-term, working memory, trouble just starting tasks sometimes, organization struggles, getting easily distracted.
Yeah, I can see how that plays out. And then impulsiveness.
Acting without fully thinking things through, maybe blurting things out. Even emotional regulation can be part of it.
Okay. And hyperactivity. I thought that was more a kid thing.
It can be less obvious in adults, yeah. Sometimes it's more of an inner restlessness, fidgeting, that kind of thing. And it's worth noting, like the coalition says, some people, especially women, might have more of the inattentive type, sometimes called ADD.
Interesting. And it starts in childhood, but you're saying more adults are getting diagnosed now.
That's right. People might have slipped through the cracks earlier. The Scottish ADHD Coalition points out it's strongly hereditary genetics play a big role, but environment matters too.
And the numbers are quite striking. You said maybe 2.5 to 4% of adults could benefit from treatment.
Yeah, but the coalition's data from Scotland in 2017 showed less than 1 in 1,000 adults were actually getting medication.
Wow. That suggests a lot of people might be navigating work without that formal support.
It certainly makes you think. And often, ADHD doesn't travel alone.
Right, the co-occurring conditions.
Exactly. The coalition lists things like sensory issues, dyslexia, dyspraxia, analytics, autism spectrum disorder, anxiety, depression. It can be complex.
So it's a very individual picture.
Very. And the key point from the coalition, it's lifelong. Manageable, definitely, but not something that gets cured.
Okay, so let's circle back to those strengths we mentioned, because I think that's so important. Hyperfocus, risk-taking. What else did the guide mention?
Yeah, the Scottish ADHD Coalition adds spontaneity, flexibility being good in a crisis, actually the creative problem solving, that high energy level, optimism often, being really driven by short deadlines, and even a good eye for detail on things they're interested in. It's quite a list of potential assets.
It really is. It balances the narrative. But of course, the challenges are real too. CHDD, Well Night, that Reddit thread. They all talk about the difficulties.
Right. Organization's a big one, keeping track of everything, managing distractions in, typical office environments, time management, deadlines, and just finishing tasks sometimes.
Which really just drives home the point about individuality, doesn't it? Like the Scottish ADHD Coalition says that open communication is just vital.
Absolutely vital to understand what that specific person needs and how best to support them.
Okay, so that leads us nicely into accommodations and support. What's the deal legally?
Well, both the Scottish ADHD Coalition and CHEDD mention that ADHD can be considered a disability under laws like the Equality Act in the UK or the ADA in the US.
Meaning employers often have to make reasonable adjustments.
Yes, provided it doesn't cause undue hardship, as they say. But it's not just about the law.
Right. The coalition makes the point that good support is just good sense. It helps people perform their best.
Exactly. Benefits everyone.
So what kind of adjustments are we talking about? Are they complicated?
Often surprisingly simple, actually. The Scottish ADHD Coalition gives loads of examples. Things like flexible start and finish times can be huge.
Okay, that makes sense.
Maybe allowing someone to delegate certain non-core tasks they really struggle with, like, say, really detailed admin if that's not their main job.
What about the actual workspace?
Yeah, lots you can do there. Visual prompts, charts, checklists, notes, really helpful. Physical reminders, maybe bigger screens to reduce memory load. Visible clocks, timers,
And the big one, distractions.
definitely. Noise-canceling headphones are common. Or, if possible, maybe a quieter space or their own office area, reducing those interruptions.
And beyond the physical space, management style, maybe?
Big impact there, too. Things like more supervision brief, frequent check-ins, not micromanaging, breaking big tasks into smaller steps.
Making it less overwhelming.
Precisely. Written instructions alongside verbal ones. Maybe a buddy system for focus. Encouraging movement breaks. The Pomodoro technique gets mentioned.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Work, break, work, break.
Helps with focus and restlessness.
And technology must play a role now.
Oh, huge. The Coalition and Healthline both talk about this. To-do list apps, scheduling apps like Todoist, text-to-speech or speech-to-text software is amazing for some. Distraction blockers for websites, white noise apps to help concentration, even just good note-taking apps. Lots of tools out there.
The Scottish ADHD Coalition also mentioned coaching for organization skills.
Yes, specific skills coaching can be really effective. And they mentioned potential funding routes like access to work in the UK. Support comes in many forms.
And it sounds like it needs to be an ongoing conversation, right? Not a one-off fix.
Absolutely. The Coalition really stresses building trust. Needs change. Things evolve. You need that open dialogue to make sure adjustments are actually working.
Okay, let's talk about disclosure. That feels like a really big, potentially difficult step for someone.
It really is. Both the Scottish ADHD Coalition and CHTD acknowledge the courage involved. There's still stigma, unfortunately, and fears about negative consequences.
Like being seen as less capable or maybe missing out on promotions.
Exactly, those kinds of worries, which is why the Scottish ADHD Coalition is so strong on confidentiality. It's non-negotiable.
Meaning keeping it totally private unless the person agrees otherwise.
Totally. Being careful who knows, where conversations happen, how reports or notes are stored. Feeling that safe environment is key.
The coalition also mentioned managing the impact on the team while keeping things confidential.
Yeah, that's a thoughtful point. Sometimes talking with the employee about whether they want to tell colleagues can be helpful. It might lead to more understanding from the team about, say, why someone uses headphones or has a flexible schedule. But it has to be their choice.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Task organization. That Reddit thread sounded interesting. What did people actually use?
It was fascinating. Such a huge range. Some people swore by simple pen and paper, notebooks, lists, really low tech.
Still works for some.
Definitely. Others used really complex digital systems. It highlighted that there's absolutely no single best way. Lots of trial and error involved.
Were there specific apps people liked?
Yeah, quite a few mentions. Trello came up for being simple and visual. Notion for flexibility, though some found it almost too flexible, a bit overwhelming.
No, I can see that.
Todoist for task management, reminders. Google Calendar and Tasks are popular for integration. Microsoft To Do. Obsidian, which mixes notes and tasks. Even one called Finch, which gamifies things.
Gamifies tasks. Okay.
Yeah, a bit different. But the main theme, really, was finding what sticks for you. Avoiding overcomplication that just leads to abandoning the system altogether.
Right, that fear of having 100 options to ADHD over, as one Redditor put it.
Exactly. Sometimes simpler is genuinely better. The best tool is the one you actually use consistently.
And good to see paper still have its place.
Sure. Sometimes just writing it down cuts through the noise.
So, moving beyond specific tools and adjustments, what about the overall work environment, making it broadly supportive?
Yeah, that's crucial. Towson University's initiative is interesting there, focusing on research and better services for students. It shows the need for education and evidence-based approaches, which applies to workplaces, too.
And Wellnight had some points on this.
They emphasize structure, consistent routines, maybe designated workspaces for different things, clear organizational systems, helps create predictability.
And time management techniques again.
Yes, like Pomodoro, time blocking, really scheduling your day. They also stressed, again, open communication and self-advocacy, helping people feel comfortable asking for what they need.
Makes sense.
And finally, coping strategies for stress, things like mindfulness, exercise. Managing ADHD isn't just about work tasks, it's about overall well-being.
Okay, so pulling all this together, what's the main takeaway here?
I think the big picture from all these sources is that success isn't about one magic bullet. It's about really understanding both the strengths and the challenges for each individual.
Right.
Implementing support that's tailored, often quite simple adjustments. fostering that open communication we keep mentioning,
Yeah, that seems key.
and using strategies and tools that actually work for that person. There's no one-size-fits-all. It needs ongoing dialogue, flexibility. That's how you build an environment where people with ADHD can really thrive.
It really does sound like a continuous process.
Absolutely. Which leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener,
Yeah.
to ponder. Given everything we've discussed, the unique strengths, the untapped potential, what kind of bigger shifts in workplace culture and management styles could really unlock more innovation and productivity, not just for people with ADHD, but maybe for everyone?
Hmm. That's a really interesting question. Thinking beyond just accommodations to like a fundamentally different way of working.
Exactly. Something to think about. And for deeper dives, checking out resources from places like the Scottish ADHD Coalition or CHADD is definitely worthwhile.